Government and politics in Iran. This is the voice of Iran, the voice of the true Iran, the voice of the Islamic Revolution. Iran National Radio, February 11th, 1979. This dramatic announcement came on Iran's national radio the first evening after the coup d'etat that deposed Mohammad Reza Shah, who had followed his father in ruling Iran with an iron fist for more than half a century. The announcement struck fear into the hearts of many Westerners who today see the 1979 revolution in Iran as the beginning of a great conflict between Western and Islamic civilizations. According to this line of reasoning, the events of 1979 started a great fundamentalist movement that spread throughout the Islamic world and eventually culminated in the September 11, 2001 attacks on the World Trade Towers and Pentagon in the United States. For some political scientists, Samuel Huntington foresaw this situation in his 1993 article in Foreign Affairs magazine called The Clash of Civilizations. This view of Iran's role in modern world politics, however, ignores the complexities of Iran's political culture, which was so apparent in reactions within the country to the 2009 presidential elections. Iran's identity is steeped in thousands of years of history that not only include a deep attachment to Islam, but also a popular revolution in the early 20th century that resulted in a Western-style constitution that was intact until 1979. These influences are still at odds today, and they shape the major challenges that face the political system. Is democracy incompatible with Islam? Or is true Islam actually based on popular support? The first impulse leads Iran towards a theocracy, or a government ruled strictly by religion, and the second leads the country towards secularization, or the belief that religion and government should be separated. These political questions are complicated by Iran's developing economy that squarely places it in the global market, but is heavily reliant on one product. Iran is the second largest oil producer in the Middle East, and the fourth largest in the world. Should these resources be controlled by clerics, or do economic matters require an expertise outside the realm of religious leaders? In many ways, Iran is a unique addition to the AP Comparative Government and Politics course, because it is the only one of the 6 countries that currently is governed as a theocracy. However, Iran shares a characteristic with Russia, China, Mexico, and Nigeria in its possession of that all-important modern resource, oil. Like Mexico, its economy may be labeled developing rather than less developed, as is the case for Nigeria. China also may be seen as having a rapidly developing economy. Similar to all the other 5 countries, Iran's political system is multifaceted and cannot be boiled down simply to a monolithic representation of the Islamic world. Sovereignty, authority, and power. An early Iranian concept of sovereignty may be traced to the days of the ancient Achaemenid Empire, called Persia by the Greeks, that existed as the world's largest empire from its founding by Cyrus in the 6th century BCE till its defeat some 200 years later. Iran's greatest rival was ancient Greece, and the two civilizations couldn't have been more different. Greece was divided into quarreling city-states, and its economy and transportations were heavily reliant on the sea. In contrast, Persia emerged from the dry lands north of the Persian Gulf and spread its power through highly centralized military leadership by land as far as the Aegean Sea, where its interests conflicted with those of the Greeks. The clash between the two great civilizations may be seen as the first act of a drama that has played out over the centuries. West versus East. Ironically, both civilizations were conquered by the Macedonian Alexander the Great, but Alexander's affinity for Greeks led him to spread their culture to land that he conquered. Less well known is the fact that Alexander much admired the Persian political structure, and left it largely in place as he conquered those lands. The Persian sovereigns were always hereditary military leaders who very much enjoyed the trappings of royalty. One king, Darius, built a magnificent capital at Persepolis, and joined his new city to many parts of the ancient world by an intricate system of roads that carried his armies all over and allowed people from many lands to pay tribute to him. His title was the Great King, King of Kings, King in Persia, King of Countries, and he referred to everyone, even the Persians' nobility, as my slaves. The king's authority was supported by a strong military as well as the state-sponsored religion, Zoroastrianism. Although none of the rulers of empires that followed were able to centralize power so successfully as the Achaemenids did, the stage was set for the authoritarian state. Zoroastrianism did not survive as a major religion, but it continued to be sponsored by rulers for centuries, including those of the Sassanid dynasty, 226 to 651 CE. The importance of Shiism. From the 7th to the 16th century CE, the geographical region of Iran had little political unity and experienced numerous invasions, including that of Arabs, who brought Islam to the area. What emerged was a new glue that held the Persians together, not political, but religious in nature. As a result, even when their caliphates, an Islamic empire put in place by Arabs, was defeated by the mighty Mongols in the 13th century, the religion survived the chaos as the invaders converted to the religion of the conquered. Despite the changes in political leadership over the years, the religion of Islam has continued to be a vital source of identity for Iranians. The brand of Islam that distinguishes Iran from its neighbor today, Shiism, was established as the state religion in the 16th century by Ismail, the founder of the Safavid Empire. Ismail and his Quisabash, redheads because of their colorful turbans, were supporters of this sect of Islam that had quarreled bitterly with Sunni Muslims for centuries. The division originated after the religion's founder, Muhammad, died without a designated heir, a significant problem since his armies had conquered many lands. The Sunnis favored choosing the caliph, leader, from the accepted leadership, the Sunni, but the Shiites argued that the mantle should be hereditary and should pass to Muhammad's son-in-law, Ali. When Ali was killed in the dispute, the Shiite opinion became a minority one, but they kept their separate identity and carried the belief that the true heirs of Islam were the descendants of Ali. These heirs, called imams, continued until the 9th century, when the 12th descendant disappeared as a child, only to become known as the hidden imam. When Ismail established Iran as a Shiite state in the 16th century, he distinguished it as different from all Sunni states around him, a characteristic that still exists today. He gave political legitimacy to the belief that the hidden imam would eventually return, but until he did, the rulers of Iran stood in his place as the true heirs of Islam. Legitimacy in the modern state. To a remarkable extent, these historical influences still shape the modern state. Authoritarian leaders played an important role in the 20th century, as the Pahlavi Shahs, King of Kings or Shah and Shah, ruled from 1925 to 1979. Their attempts to secularize the state, though, were undone by a charismatic leader, the Ayatollah Khomeini, who personified the union of political and religious interests from ancient days. His appeal may be likened to that of Ismail, the protector of the true faith that unites the Shiite religion with the power of the state. The Ayatollah was hailed as the leader of the revolution, founder of the Islamic Republic, guide of the oppressed masses, commander of the armed forces, and imam of the Muslim world. Titles that blend the historical influences into the persona of one very powerful religious political leader. The Ayatollah Khomeini led the revolution of 1979, an event that transformed the legitimacy of the state, anchoring it once again in the principles of Shiism. The most important document that legitimizes the state today is the Constitution of 1979, along with the amendments of 1989, written during the last months of the Ayatollah Khomeini's life. The document and the 40 amendments are a highly complex mixture of theocracy and democracy. The preamble of the Constitution reflects the importance of religion for the legitimacy of the state, affirming faith in God, divine justice, the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad, the 12 imams, and the eventual return of the hidden imam. Khomeini's doctrine of juris guardianship, which we'll define later, is included along with other divine principles. In recent years, two conflicting ideas, sovereignty of the people and divinely inspired clerical rule, have created a crisis of legitimacy in Iran. During the presidency of Mohammad Khatami, 1997 to 2005, reformers who supported the democratic government came to the forefront. But with the election of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in 2005, the conservatives who endorsed a theocracy took control. As a result, the rift between these two forces, conservatives and reformers, has illustrated the issue of just how a theocracy can also function as a democracy. The conflict is reflected in differences among clerics in the seminaries of Qum, a city south of Tehran, through their interpretations of the true meaning of juris guardianship. Political culture. Although the Safavid Empire was followed by centuries of weak political organization in Iran, Shiism continued as an important unifying thread to the political culture. However, the dynasty that followed, the Qajars, did not claim the imam's mantle, so Shiite clerical leaders came to be the main interpreters of Islam, and a separation between religion and politics developed. Although the Qajars were never very strong, they did not succumb to European imperialism, and they ruled until the 20th century. These complex historical influences with roots in ancient times have formed a multifaceted political culture characterized by authoritarianism, but not totalitarianism. Beginning with the Safavid Empire, the central political leaders did not control all areas of individuals' lives. While the leaders claimed to be all-powerful, in reality they were not. And the people became accustomed to paying attention to local officials and/or to leading their own lives within civil society. Union of political and religious authority. From the days of the ancient Persians, political and religious leaders were often one and the same. However, starting with the rule of the Qajars, 1794 to 1925, the two types of authority were separated, only to be brought back together by the revolution of 1979. Shiism and Sharia as central components. Today, almost 90% of all Iranians identify themselves as Shiite, a fact that links citizens to the government, which is officially a theocracy. Islamic law, the Sharia, is an important source of legitimacy that modern government particularly emphasizes. Escape from European colonization. Unlike most countries of Asia, Africa, and South America, Iran was never officially colonized by Europeans during the imperialist era of the 18th and 19th centuries. Although the area was heavily impacted by European power moves, imperialism did not have the same direct control of Iran that it had of Mexico and Nigeria. Geographic limitations. A great deal of Iran's land space is unusable for agriculture, with a vast central desert plain and mountains to the north and northeast. Such geographic restrictions caused the early Persians to seek better lands to the west by expansion and conquest. In modern day, the population of Iran is unevenly distributed, with most living in cities and in the northwest, where the most arable land is located. The influence of ancient Persia. Differences between Iran and neighboring countries is not only based on Shiite versus Sunni Islam. Even after the Arabs invaded Iran, people continued to speak Persian rather than Arabic, and many of their other cultural habits remained as well, including distinctive architecture, literary works, poetry, and decorative arts, such as Persian rugs. This identity shapes Iranian nationalism today. Strong sense of Iranian nationalism. Public opinion surveys show that Iranians in general have a strong sense of national identity than do citizens of most Arab countries. As a result, they are more likely to identify themselves as Iranians first and Muslims second. Their Persian roots encourage the perception that Iran is a distinct culture, and pride in being Iranian is quite pronounced.